What it is, my Tano Peace and Grease here, and today we're talking about the Exploiter Orb. Now, probably a lot of questions about the Exploiter Orb, so I'll be kind of taking you from the how-tos, the why-tos, and then finally I'll actually explain how the Exploiter Orb works, and then finally I'll actually take you through the mission. Now, the obvious question you're probably going to ask is, Peace, why should I give two shakes of a dog's ass about the Exploiter Orb? Well, the obvious answer to this, to start off with, is Hildren. If you won Hildren, and why wouldn't you? She's very good against Corpus. Her parts actually drop from the Exploiter Orb. Now, with that said, a little bit of a side note, her blueprint can only be acquired through Little Duck from Voxelaris, and that's going to be on Fortuna in the back room. So you're going to have to get your standing up a couple of levels, and then you can purchase Hildren's blueprint, main blueprint, with the standing. Now, that brings me to my next point, the other drop from the Exploiter Orb, and that is toroids, specifically the lazulite toroids. Now, at this point, you're probably thinking, okay, Peace, a toroid is a toroid. Who cares, right? Well, the lazulite toroids are a little bit different than the rest of the toroids, because the lazulite toroids are worth 12,000 standing each. So, a lazulite toroid, depending on your MR level, just a couple of them could almost max your standing for the day. So it doesn't take long to rack up a good amount of standing with Little Duck in Voxelaris with these lazulite toroids. So they're very good to get those drops. Now at this point you may be wondering, okay, Peace, I still don't care. Is there anything else that drops? And short answer is yes, there is. And that is resources. Now, if you're like me, you hate wasting your time mining and fishing. It's not so much a waste of time, it's just I would rather be doing anything else in Warframe other than mining or fishing. That's just me personally, though. And the good news here is that the Exploiter Orb actually drops your more rare fish parts and mining ore and gems. So if you don't like mining and fishing, it's a very good alternative to that. In fact, I actually get more rare gems from the Exploiter Orb than I ever have mining. And believe me, I've spent an ass load of time mining in Orbalis to a point where I got sick of it. And I actually have acquired more of those rare minerals from the Exploiter Orb. So, just my 2 cents, if you need the rare minerals, get them from the Exploiter Orb. Furthermore, if you have a resource booster, the Exploiter Orb's drops are doubled. So yeah, just a win-win there. But maybe you're one of those players that you think none of what I have said here interests you. Is there anything else? And the answer is yes. The first thing that I'll talk about is the Articula. Now this is a ship decoration, the blue thing hanging on my wall here, and it's not in the past when you ran an Eidolon, as you can see here. If you ran the Prophet Taker, these were pretty much, I would say, almost guaranteed drops. Not necessarily guaranteed, but they had a very, very, very good chance of dropping. The Exploiter Orb, unfortunately, is not this. I had to run the Exploiter Orb probably 40-ish times before I ever saw my one and only Articula. Literally, this is the only one I've ever received in my 40-plus runs. In fact, I have received more Ephemeris than I have the Articula. So if this doesn't interest you, that brings me to my next point, which is the Ephemeris. The last thing that drops from the Prophet Taker is, as I've said, the Ephemeris. Now, there are 2 potential Ephemeris that can drop. The first is the Shocking Step Ephemera, and the second is the Frozen Step Ephemera. Now, this was really buggy when the Prophet Taker first came out, and actually for a little while after the Prophet Taker was out. And it seemed like either they just didn't drop, or the same player got the same ephemera over and over and over again without any change, if they got it at all, because the drop rates were horrendous, and they're still not that good. Now, I actually acquired my first Shocking Step Ephemera before I ever acquired an Articula ship decoration. It took me less time to get the Shocking Step Ephemera than it did that Articula. And then almost every subsequent run afterward, I received a Shocking Step. I have not seen a frozen step ephemera to date, not once, not a single solitary one. So there's still a bug, in my opinion, to career, where if you're a player and you go in and you get the frozen step, that's about all you're going to get. Or if you go into the Exploiter Orb and you get the shocking step, that's about all you're going to get. And to be honest with you, if you've watched any of my content, you know that I'm not a fan of ephemeris. So I just don't give enough of a crap to continue running the Exploiter Orb to try and get the frozen step ephemera. I just don't care. If DE doesn't care enough to actually try and fix it, I just don't care enough to run it. Quite honestly, that's my 2 cents, and of course my negative view of ephemeris. Now, if you don't know my negative view of ephemeris is, I'll just summarize really briefly and really quickly for those of you that already know, which is the ephemera is more of a punishment than it is a reward. Picture going to an event where they're giving away a new car and you drop your name in the box and they're like, oh, you won. And then they give you the brand quote unquote new car in crates and say, there's your new car. Just all you have to do is put it together. That's exactly what ephemeras are. They're more of a punishment than they are a reward. And to be honest with you, I can't stand them. Now, with that said, if you like the ephemeras, that's cool. If you like them, you do you. I just personally don't like being punished and then being told it's a reward. That's my 2 cents. That's how I feel about it. You can feel however you wish to. So those are all the drops that can come from the Exploiter Orb. Now, the obvious question, if any of these things have piqued your interest, is, okay, Peace, well, how do I gain access to the Exploiter Orb? Well, obviously, you have to be on Venus. I mean, that's a no-brainer. You have to have access to Fortuna. Now, the Exploiter Orb is really interesting because you can run the Exploiter 24/7, all right? And you're fine to do that as long as you have diluted thermia. This is why the Exploiter Orb and the Thermia Fracture event in Orbalis are connected. Now, the Thermia Fractures are where you're going to get the diluted thermia. The diluted thermia is required for you to be able to run the Exploiter Orb. So, if you haven't already ran the Thermia Fractures and got the rewards, the event's up, you can run it, you can get the rewards as well as the diluted thermia so that you can actually run the Exploiter Orb. Now, I was lucky because I ran the Exploiter Orb with a couple of friends and then turned around and helped a couple other friends run it and then a couple more friends run it. So by the time I was done, I had ran this event like 3 times. Unfortunately, you may be wondering, Peace, do I get anything else from the Thermia Fractures if I run it more than once? Short answer, nope. You don't get anything else. And believe me, like I said, I ran it probably a total of 3 times thus far, and I only got the rewards for the first run and didn't get anything else after that. So, but you do need it for diluted thermia. And the diluted thermia in your inventory actually looks like this, and I'll show you really quickly before we jump into the codex. In case you were wondering, this is what the diluted thermia in your inventory is going to look like. Now, as you can see, I've got like 80 left. All right. Okay. So let's quickly go over the basic strategy for the Exploiter Orb, and then I'll actually jump in and take you on a run. All right. So there's going to basically be 2 enemies that you're going to have to worry about in the Exploiter Orb. The first, obviously, is the main one, which is this cat, the Exploiter Orb. Okay. Now, she's your main baddie that you're going to be trying to take out. All right. And in the first phase, it's all about her. However, in the second phase, if I can, in the second phase, it's going to be this. It's all about this, these coolant arachnoids. So essentially what you're going to have to do in the first phase is, the first stage, I should say, and there's several phases in that first stage, and that's going to be inside in Deck 12. And the basic layout for this is, as soon as you activate the Thermia Condenser Machine, the console, she's going to come through the hole in the roof of Deck 12. You have to shoot the rocks holding her up. You then have to shoot her vents so she belly flops. She will then move to the opposite end of Deck 12. You will start throwing thermia canisters at her vents and shooting them so that the thermia kind of splashes on those vents to thaw them. And then once that's done, you do damage to her vents. She'll belly flop again. She'll actually go to the middle of Deck 12 and start dropping these coolant arachnoids. just kill these cats, and then she will finally move to where she started, and you just have to damage her vents one last time. Sometimes you'll have to throw thermia, condenser at diluted thermia at her again, and then she will go back through the hole in which she came, and then you just want to actually return the way that you came, and you start the outside phase. And the outside phase works pretty straightforward. It's all about these dudes. You must destroy these things before they ever get near her, because this blue splooge up here in these little containers, if they squirt that on the Exploiter Orb, they cool her down. And the whole point of stage 2 is to overheat her. And these guys' sole purpose is to cool her down. So in order to get her to overheat, these guys you must destroy. Plus, if they shoot their little blue splooge stuff all over the Exploiter Orb, they don't drop a canister. And you need those blue canisters, because the Exploiter Orb will then create thermia fractures, which you have to put the canister in, then take it back out, then throw it at her and shoot it so it splashes all over her and overheats her. Now you have to overheat her 3 times. And once the gauge, there'll be a gauge on the left side of your screen, almost in the middle. And once it gets to max red, just anybody on your fire team jumps towards the Exploiter Orb, doesn't matter who. Whoever gets there first come, first serve. You get a nice little cutscene with who's ever Warframe got to the Exploiter Orb first. You have to do that 3 times. The 3rd time you do it, all you got to do afterward is just damage her, and it's over. You pick up your loot and you get the hell out of there, because if you don't, she self-destructs and will down you. Okay? Now let me point out really quickly here these vents so that you can see them. She's got 4 vents total. This is one vent right here on her left side. She's got 2 vents in back, here and here. And she's got 1 vent on the opposite side, on the left side over here. And this, of course, is her front with like her antennae or whatever you want to call that thing. But here's her other vent on the other side. So 4 vents total, just FYI. All right. Now let's talk about Loadout. Loadout, really kind of up to you. You're going to be using your secondary more than you will anything else. So my primary here is just a placeholder. It's not. I'm not going to actually be able to use it that much. So this is going to be the gun I use the majority of the time, which is my Catch Moon. I won't be using my melee. My Celestial Twin probably will, but I'll be using my Catch Moon the majority of the time. As far as companions, bring whatever you want. I'm bringing the Jinn Sentinel with the Vault Clock Sentinel weapon, and the reason for this is because the Jinn. The reason specifically I'm bringing the Jinn is because of this mod right here, Reawaken, and that is that Reawaken gives your Jinn Sentinel constant revives, non-stop. You never run out of them as you do with regen and primed regen. These have a limit to the amount of times your Sentinel can be revived. Reawaken will constantly, non-stop, always revive your Jinn every single time, every minute and a half. And your Sentinel will die. Oh yes, it will. It will die. So having Reawaken on here constantly allows your Sentinel to revive itself every minute and a half, and you're going to need it. So as far as the Sentinel weapon, again, bring what you want. I stick with the Vault Clock, so you could probably get away with running something else if you wanted it to shoot enemies like the coolant rack noise, but that's what I use. Alright. Now, I will tell you that I'm going to run this solo. I highly recommend you run it with a squad, and the reason why is because it gets annoying more than anything trying in the last stage to try and make sure you're taking out the coolant rack noise, picking up the canisters, putting them in the thermia fractures, throwing those new diluted thermia canisters at the Exploiter Orb, and just non-stop. It gets very annoying having to do just everything. All right. So full squad makes this very, 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 very easy and a lot quicker than doing it solo. With that said, however, I can tell you in my probably 60-ish runs to date, and I would say probably 30-ish of those have actually been with 1 or 2 randoms that have squatted up, or with clanmates or friends. The rest of them I have had to run solo because there's not a lot of people running it, apparently. So, alright. So let's jump in here and I'll take you through there. I do apologize for the length of the video, but I kind of feel like it's necessary to actually show you rather than just tell you. Because it's hard for some people to actually visualize in their head exactly what I'm talking about if they've never done it. So actually showing you what I'm doing just makes it tons easier, in my opinion. Alright. Let's fast travel to Little Duck. This is Little Duck, by the way. She is the biggest hypocrite in Fortuna because she doesn't want to talk to you when you're in your Warframe, because apparently she doesn't like your Warframe's quote-unquote machine, even though they're not machines. Even though she is a big-time part machine herself. So, yeah, she has no room to talk. But anyway, so this is what you're looking for. You're looking for this little orb animation going on here on this desk, which I wish I could have one of those for my my orbiter for decoration. But anyway, I'll select Exploiter and wait for the countdown, and then I can go to the elevator. Now this isn't necessarily hard to solo. I don't want to give the impression that it's hard, because it's not hard to do solo. My point here is, if you've ever been running around like crazy doing like tons of stuff and you wish like somebody else could just like give you a hand to actually take care of some busy work, that's basically what it's kind of like. She's not that hard to beat. It's just important to remember that when you get ready to throw those canisters, you throw them, you shoot them so that it splashes on her, and then you get the hell out of there, because in stage 1 she's using a machine gun turret and she's pinpoint accurate with that son of a bitch. I mean, she will pick you out of the sky, like literally. Most enemies are supposed to have reduced accuracy when you're airborne, just naturally. However, she has, in fact, I think her accuracy improves, because she will get headshots on you with you running and flipping and aim gliding in the whole 9 yards. So, yeah. And the second stage, she uses a flamethrower. Do not underestimate that flamethrower. Let me tell you now. Alright. So, as we're waiting for energy, most people I run into always have the same question, which is, Peace, I select the Exploiter Orb, but it doesn't tell me where to go. Now, Warframe has always historically been a game that doesn't hold the player's hand, and this Exploiter Orb kind of continues that trend. Alright, so we'll wait for Yukiko to shut up, and then we'll get on to it here.
We tried taking Exploiter down back in the day. We have to try again, but this time we have to succeed.
Get on with it, Yukiko.
It'll be Deck 12 all over again, and I can't have that. Zood and her sisters built a thermic condenser.
Okay, that's about enough of that. I can't. She's talking too much. Alright, so when you open your map here, what you're looking for is this structure right here. Alright, and this is actually a stone arch. And the good thing here is that there's not a lot of those types of structures anywhere else on the Orbalis map. So if you look west, you'll see this straight line of a stone structure. At the end, you'll see a cave. That's where you're going. Alright. So let's pull up our Arcwing and head that way. So there is the arc, the stone arc I mentioned. And we're just going to basically go right behind it. And we're looking for a cave. Alright. And you just go through this door. And this is going to take you to Deck 12, which is where this fight's going to be. Now remember where you came in, okay? because you're going to have to go right back out. All what we just came through in that cave, you're going to have to go all the way back out of it again. Okay, so remember where you came in. Now, fun little fact here. Deck 12, which is what this area is, should look very familiar to you. In fact, it should look identical to Fortuna. Now, whenever you are in orbit and you select Fortuna, this is where you're going. You'll notice that there's usually a pool of coolant in here. But, fun fact, just like in Fortuna, this is where Ticker stands. And then below Ticker is right here is where the Biz stands. Right next to him is where Smokefinger stands, right here. Right next to him is where Thursby or Legs stands. Yeah, so it should look very familiar to you. Very familiar, because it's the same identical location. In fact, here's where Rude Zood stands. Even the Vent Kids location is here. The crate with the vent. Now, there's no graffiti and you can't enter the vent. But this is important for you to pay attention to. This vent and this crate where the Vent Kids would normally be, because you're looking for this console. This console kicks off the whole thing. As soon as you activate this console, the Exploiter Orb will come right through this hole in the roof. Alright? Now, if you remember in Fortuna, this is the elevated platform where everyone fashion frames, and of course, here's the elevator where you go out to do your missions. And here's typically where Utico was sitting. So it's the same identical layout, so it should be very familiar. You're just now having a battle in it, okay? This battle in Fortuna, basically. An empty, deserted ghost town of a Fortuna. Now, once you activate this terminal, and the reason I'm pointing all this out is because I want you to have kind of identifiers in your head. Once you activate this terminal and the Exploiter Orb comes down, you need to make sure you remember where these machines are right here. You can always tell them because they've got this tube sticking out from them. And I want to say there's at least 4, if not more. There's one there. There's one here. There's one right here. So yeah, there's at least 4, if not more. But you're going to have to go to those once you get to about phase 2. We'll call it phase 3 of this fight. And you're going to have to pick up the canisters. Now these consoles will actually have a progress bar going across them, telling you when they're going to spit out a canister of thermia. And you're going to need to know that, because you're going to have to come back and forth. Particularly if you're soloing this, you're going to have to do a lot of running back and forth to pick up these canisters. So be aware of where these terminals are that are going to be spitting out this thermia. Alright. Let's get my twin out here. Okay. So we've activated the console, and the Exploiter Orb is going to come through here and make her appearance. Now at this point, she's going to start to climb down. When she does, she's going to be shooting at these rocks here. And she's going to be shooting at these rocks. You need to be shooting at these rocks here. And this is going to drop her, as you can see here. Once she drops, you now need to damage her vents. There she goes. She just belly flopped. Now she's going to move to the opposite end of deck 12. Alright. Now this is where you're going to need the canister. You'll tell that her vents have got big old ice chunks around them now. This is why you need those canisters. Okay, once she gets there, these terminals will kick on. Alright, let's go ahead and do this, because we've got a bunch of these little arachnoid a-holes running around us. So it's just kind of a matter of waiting for these things to spit out these canisters. Now she will use kind of an ice blast, and when she does, it's kind of annoying. But there's our first canister. So we grab this canister. Now I use Wukong, and what I do is I actually use Cloud Walker, and I actually Cloud Walker over to her and try to get in position to where I can throw. That was a waste of the canister. I don't think I hit it, damn thing. That definitely happens, trust me. You are going to be missing a lot of your canisters, unfortunately. Now, the good thing about having a full squad is you're throwing, you know, 4 times as many frickin' canisters, which gets this whole part of this stage done much quicker. Now, this works on a, I don't know what you would call it, kind of a percentage setting, where if you like partially hit the vent, the iced vent, then you like thaw like a quarter of her vents and a direct hit. Now, Zood will pop up and tell you shields are down. And when she pops up on your screen and tells you that, it's time to start shooting her vents. Right now, she's just saying toss the thermite. Now, I'm just waiting for her to get down here, and then I think, and she just completely belly flops right when I get to it. I will tell you this is one of the most annoying things of this fight, in my opinion, is the fact that she is constantly moving around. Alright, so I think we've got one vent down. We can get some canisters and start working on another. And I'm out of energy. That's no bueno. Okay, now she just belly flopped. Now at this point, she should move to the middle of the map as she has done. Now at this point, I grab a canister because for the last stage of this fight. But what you're going to want to do is just shoot these dudes. She's going to constantly be spitting these coolant racnoids down here on the ground. When she does, all you have to do is just kill them. Once you've killed enough of them, she will move back over here to where she started. Now, there she goes. Now, I normally like to take cover right here at this column. Let my twin take care of the dirty work and just kill the coolant racnoids. It's really that simple. Alright. So, now we need to get her vents again. Now, what I like to do is just wait for her to land on the ground, because the last thing I want to do is waste a can, particularly when you're alone. Because when you're alone and you're soloing this, it's extremely frustrating to miss a canister, because now it means you got to go all the way back, pick up a canister, and do the whole thing all over again. This is one of the reasons why, which you haven't even seen the stage 2 of this fight, but it kind of explains why I don't like to mess around. Okay, let Zood finish talking. As soon as Zood finished talking, there she goes. She belly flopped. So now she's going to head out the direction that she came. She's going to climb back up and out the hole. Now at this point, make sure everybody in your squad grabs a canister. Believe me, there was a guy that I had actually random that I had ran this mission with several times, like 3 or 4 times back to back, and the guy just refused to pick up a thermite canister. I don't know what his deal was. I don't know why. I'm not sure if he has some sort of malfunction or what the deal is, but his excuse every time was, oh, I couldn't find one. It's like, dude, there's thermite canisters laying all over the damn floor. It's not that hard. But anyway, make sure everyone on your team picks up a canister, because it just makes the next phase that much quicker. Alright, so remember, as I said, this is where you came in, and you have to go right back out that direction. You can't go up through the hole that the Exploiter Orb did. You have to go, because you have to go through a loading screen, and that's what the doors are there for. It's part of loading deck 12 versus the outside, so on and so forth. So, I guess the best way that I can really explain it for you is This is the elevated section over here where everybody fashion frames in front of the elevator. You need to come all the way to the opposite side where you spawn. Normally if you go to Fortuna. But we're going to say that deck 12 as reference. And then you're going to go right out here, past these mushrooms. Alright. Again, this mission does not hold your hand. You're kind of on your own. You need to figure out where you need to go and what you need to do. It does kind of tell you what you need to do, but it doesn't really hold your hand in regards to telling you, you know, the location you're fighting next. In fact, I know I spent the first time I ran this, no joke, I was trying to jump through the hole in the roof, and I couldn't figure out why I couldn't jump through the hole in the roof. And I'm like, what? Why can't I get through this hole in the roof? Well, you're not meant to go through the hole in the roof. So if you've done that, don't feel like a jackass. Believe me, I've done it too. You know, in fact, I think anybody that had kind of a little modicum of honesty would probably admit, yeah, I did that too. Yeah. We all did. It happens. And this is just basically a non-moving elevator, basically just waiting for this door here. That's all we're doing. Alright. And here we are outside, and here she is, the Exploiter Orb. So, number one best bit of advice I can provide you here is kill the coolant arachnoids. They have to be your number one priority. Nothing even comes close, because you need the coolant arachnoids for the canisters. You need the coolant arachnoids to stay away from her while you're trying to overeat her. So yeah, and this is where it gets really annoying. Go ahead and pick up a blue canister, so when the Exploiter Orb does make, and she will make thermia fractures. When she does, that's when the blue canisters come in handy. In fact, there's one right there. So, we drop the thermia canister in there and immediately take it back out. Thankfully, this is not like thermia fractures in Orbalis, where you have to like wait for 3 years for the the canisters to get done. Thankfully, it just automatically happens. I mean, instantly. So, all right, now you'll notice the gauge on the left side of my screen, almost in the middle. She's about halfway. So something's cooled her down now. Yep, there they are. So these yahoos are going to cool her down, and all of the work you've done to get her overheated, they're going to just take away. So something else is cooling her again. There he is. Asshole. Get away from her. Get away from her. Get away from her. So this is why I said that it's easier in a squad, because somebody, while I'm doing this, someone could have been running around picking up canisters and making more condensed canisters to throw at her. But since I'm solo, I have got to stop and immediately focus on killing the coolant arachnoids before they get to her. Okay, she's overheated. She's shut down and belly flop, so just jump towards her. Whoever gets to her first gets this nice little cutscene with their Warframe. Again, first come, first serve. If everybody in your squad wants to be in the cutscene, they got to be the first to get to her. Just jump at her. Cutscene does the rest. All right, so that's one. We now just have to do that twice more. Now, if something occurs where she doesn't seem to be creating thermia fractures, if you're out, for example, take a few shots. If there's some damage numbers on her, keep shooting until her damage numbers are gone. And this is when the gauge pops up. You'll notice that the gauge wasn't present on my screen, and it now is. Again, I should say. Alright. Alright, now she's calling in some coolant arachnoids. So we need to kill those yahoos before we get to her. Let's go ahead and do this. Right. So you, again, as you're doing this solo, you have got to make your rounds. You have got to run around in circles around her. And then after several minutes, I'm not going to say several minutes, after several seconds of kind of making sure the coast is clear, you can then kind of go back to making their thermia canisters and throwing them at her. Okay, there's another one. That a-hole was hiding underneath her. Yeah, that's the most frustrating part for me, is these a-holes will hide out underneath her, and you won't see them. A really frustrating part, which if you run this enough, you're going to have it happen. She will come over here and she will literally stand on these rocks. The problem is, right over this hill of these rocks, the coolant arachnoids actually come from there. And they will literally spawn, come over the hill, and spray her with coolant, and just ruin all the work that you've done to kill him. So, alright. Oh, I got that squirt off. Damn it. Nope. Healing her. I'm gonna make some more thermia crack, coolant, thermia, whatever, thermia bloop lop, thermia bloop. Alright. She's not quite halfway. This guy, I thought I saw one over here, did I not? I swore I saw one over. Oh crap, there's two of them. Yep. Son of a bitch. I'm just out of tune. I don't think I've done this enough recently to stay. Nope, you're Wimmer. Alright, now she's halfway. Now this is where it really becomes important to keep these guys on. Yeah, see, look at that. They just took a big chunk out of my Fun fact, you can't get through this firewall, but with Wukong, you can. Man, I already had her at halfway, and these a-holes are just... Oh, wow. Yep, now you can see I'm below halfway again. This is why it is, like, I can't stress enough how important it is to kill the coolant arachnoids. If you don't kill the coolant arachnoids, anything that you've accomplished, you lose. So. Okay, she's getting close to overheating. Come on. Don't make me get another canister, because I don't want to leave you. Or else a coolant arachnoid is going to sneak in and cool you down. Right there, exactly. Son of a bitch. Alright, there she goes. She's overheated. So this is overheat number 2, so we only have to do this one more time. So you rip her parts off here. Okay, so now we have no gauge, we have no thermia fractures, you'll notice, so she's got to do some damage to her. Shoot her a little bit. Alright, now she has given us the gauge again, and she should be making some thermia fractures before too long. Okay, this is what I didn't want. As you can see, she's right over here by these rocks. That is problematic, because these little a-holes spawn just over the hill, and they literally come down the hill and cool her off. I did not want her over here, but unfortunately, did not get a chance to get her. What we need is for you to make some thermia fractures. Here she goes. Got. Check the other side of this Normally when I ran this with a squad, I like to have one person north, one person south, one person east and west, and so on. And their main job is to keep all of the coolant arachnoids away from the Exploiter Orb. That's their numero uno job. Alright, come on. Give me some thermia fractures, please. So at this point, we're just kind of keeping the coolant arachnoids away from her. At the same time, we're just kind of waiting. Damn, see what I mean? This guy literally spawned, came over the hill, and splooged on her. And that's it. That's all it takes. That's why you do not want her over here on these rocks if at all possible.
Arachnoids, bringing in refined coolant. Don't let them reach the orb.
Yes, we know they're bringing in refined coolant. We are very well aware of this. Yep, there's already some coolant arachnoids over here cooling her off from the rocks. Yep, do not want her here. Now, it may be bugging out on me. I don't know. I've got the gauge, but she's not making any thermia fractures. And this is problematic because I can't do anything with that. I mean, are there any thermia fractures I am missing somewhere? Is there one over the hill? No. I do not see one. Sometimes there will be a lone singular thermia fracture over here at times. Off to the sides, like way away. By the way, Wukong's Cloudwalker is pretty quick. So I'm just going to check over around the side real quick. No thermia fractures. Now, some Corpus enemies will occasionally spawn and show up.
Arachnoids, bringing in refined coolant. Don't let them reach the orb.
Alright, finally. Unfortunately, this takes... Wow, she's way up on the rocks now. Damn it. Not what I wanted. Not a damn thing I can do about it either. Yeah, they're cooling her down hard now. And they're coming from those rocks and just instantly spraying on her. I'd like to get this video done, and I'm hoping it's not going to be too long, but we shall see. Yeah, look at this. I mean, it's like a freaking parade. They're just coming down over this hill and just cooling her off like crazy. At this rate, I'm never going to get her to overheat again. I'm going to try something to see if I can get her to move away from those rocks. I'm going to throw out a turret over here and see if I can coax her away from these rocks. I do not want her up over here. There's another one. Yeah, I know, Zood. If you'd like to come out here and do it yourself, you're more than freaking welcome. Look at that. They're just cooling her down like mad, man. This is the Exploiter Orb. Buggy is all hell, so be prepared for that. In fact, I was running the Exploiter Orb the other one day. No kidding. If you know the space rhomba they have for decorations, it actually was reduced to that size. It was like a little tiny Exploiter Orb running around. God, see? Before long, she's just gonna be freaking over this hill. Because this is really buggy. But yeah, she was the size, literally the size of a space rhomba. I kid you not. Literally this tiny, like, little, but she was still, don't get me wrong, she was still packing damage. Oh, she was still hitting you for the damage she normally did, but she was just this little tiny thing. Well, yeah, she's going higher in there. Alright, yeah, she's about halfway at this point. I need some more thermia. Get away. Alright, she's getting close. Look, she's climbing up on the hill at this point. Okay, so finally, the third overheat. And you rip out her antenna eye thingamajiggy. And now you're done with those damn canisters and coolant rack noise. And now you just got to shoot her and damage her. Kill her the rest of the way. And you can pretty much use whatever weapon you want to at that point. There she goes. She blew up. So now at this point, you just got to collect your loot. Whenever she spits it out. Remember to grab your loot and get the hell out. Because if you don't, she does self-destruct and it will down you. Alright, so now let's find this. Where to loot? Here it is. There you go. Of course, I didn't get anything good out of that. I didn't get a articula. I didn't get an ephemera. I did get a lazulite core, so I can't be mad about that. So let's take a quick peek at what we got. Alright, so we got some credits, some fish parts, Mirewinder, Caramel, some lazulite toroid, some bricky, Krillus or fish parts, Zodian, which is a rare mineral, Synethid, Echosynth Analyzer. The Synethid is actually that's the rarest fish in Orbalis. We got a Vega toroid from the inside stage, which, yeah, you don't really care about those. But anyway, yeah. So that gives you an idea. Again, keep in mind, it can drop an ephemera and it can drop an articula. Those are options. Those are potential options dependent upon your RNG, of course, since my RNG sucks major booty. I'm not going to get those things, at least not how I want them. But anyway, hopefully that helps you guys and gals out for the Exploiter Orb. Let me know how your Exploiter Orbs are going and if you're getting what you're wanting from her. And until next time, peace and grease.